Adverbs, like the word indicates, add information to the verb, just like the prefix add modifies the word verb. If you've been around the writing community for more than 1 second, you have been told at least a half a dozen times to cut all adverbs from your writing. And that advice is somewhat a golden rule that you should follow. However, adverbs have a purpose. A well-placed and used adverb can make or break a sentence. Not all adverbs are villains. So today we are going to grab some excerpts from How to End a Love Story by Yolin Kwang. Excerpt 1. Alanis's gaze snaps to Grant immediately, and he feels like an insect pinned to paper. Snap is a verb that invokes immediacy, so the adverb immediately doesn't add new information to the verb, which makes the usage of the adverb a redundancy. For me, the edit would be simple. It would just be remove the adverb and it would be Alanis's gaze snapped to Grant and he felt like an insect pinned to paper, which is a great visual, by the way. Okay, let's move on to excerpt number 2. He suddenly feels inadequately prepared in every way for this moment. Sometimes we add adverbs when we could have actually used a better verb. That happens all the time. And in this case in particular, inadequately prepared specifically, there's a better word for it. So why complicate something that can be simple if you can use one word? Why use 2 words? Unprepared could replace the expression inadequately prepared and everything will feel way easier to digest and way straightforward and concise. The edit would be he suddenly feels unprepared in every way for this moment. The adverb suddenly, for me, makes more sense to keep. Why is that? This adverb suddenly makes a bridge between what the character thought he could handle and what he actually could handle. Before, he thought that their meeting was not that big of a deal and he was prepared to face her and it was not a problem. But as soon as he sees her, that shifts completely and the adverb suddenly is helping the reader see that shift also immediately. So it actually helps this sentence in this particular situation, in my opinion. So I do not mind it at all. I think it's well used. When using adverbs, it's really a case-by-case basis. ly adverbs do have a bad rap, and it is true that you don't need them. You can rewrite it, and you could have rewritten this sentence without using these adverbs. I think the idea is not to take the rule and just cut everything without thinking about it. I think it's important to be intentional in what you cut, what you don't cut, what you write, what you don't write. I think it's important to think about what you do and not just do it because someone else told you to do. This rule that goes around is a golden rule. It's really helpful not to use adverbs, especially adverbs that don't add anything to the sentence. But at the same time, you have to understand the craft and the rule enough to know when to break it. There are cases like this one where I personally don't mind the adverb, and trust me, I am not a fan of adverbs. Okay, now let's turn the heat up a little bit and go to excerpt number 3. We've met, she says neatly. There's a sharpness to her voice that suddenly calls to mind an image of dispassionate scissors cleaningly snipping away any thread of destiny that has the gall to show up right now. Grant and I went to high school together. Before we said that sometimes we have the tendency to write adverbs that don't add anything to the verb. Now we have an adverb that also doesn't add anything to the verb, but it doesn't make sense in terms of language or in terms of what's possible physically. What do I mean by that? Okay, let me explain. So in this sentence, it says, we've met, she says neatly. How does a person say something neatly? I don't know. Like, we can cut something neatly, like straight through, and it's a clean cut. And that I understand. But saying something neatly, I'm not sure what kind of information that adverb even adds to this verb, honest to God. And it's not the first time that I've encountered verbs that don't correlate with the adverb they are being paired with. Then we have another ly adverb in suddenly, which is also a bit unnecessary. The whole sentence in itself is too wordy for me. So let's edit this sentence and see how we could have improved it in our own way. First, we have the option without the ly adverbs, maintaining the structure of the sentence, just removing the ly adverbs. We've met, she says. There's a sharpness to her voice that calls to mind an image of dispassionate scissors, snipping away any thread of destiny that has the gall to show up right now. Grant and I went to high school together. Clean it up even further, we could have, we've met, she says. The sharpness of her voice cuts any thread of destiny that would have the gall to show up right now. Grant and I went to high school together. Okay, well, now let's move on to excerpt number 4. Helen's mother shakes with silent, robbing sobs and grips her surviving daughter's hand so hard Ellen lost feeling in it during the pastor's welcoming remarks. So my first reaction to the adverb so hard was that it was misused and it didn't make sense. Why say gripping so hard when some verb like crush, for example, was right there, that was my thought process initially. But then as I was analyzing it and making this video, I thought, wait, maybe that's the purpose. Like, the so hard is supposed to give emphasis to the sentence and to the action. When I read it again, it felt like a voice thing. It felt like so hard is something that this particular character would say and how they would say it instead of crush. That's also the thing, that sometimes the character that is speaking can use more adverbs than a completely different one. That is also a thing. Of course, you as the writer have the utmost responsibility to curate that and to examine which adverb is actually essential to transmit the character's voice or whatever information that you want to transmit. It is very important for you to be intentional about it. I keep using the same word, intention, but it is a truth. Like, it is true. Be intentional with your writing. In this particular case, so hard is not necessary to convey a particular emotion, even though I feel like is a consequence of the character's voice or the author's voice for the character. Of course, we could have eliminated it, rephrase it to make it different without the adverb if we so wish to, of course, but that would be that's just a creative thing, not necessarily a technical error, So now we are leaving this book behind a little bit, and this last example is from The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. What I really want to show here is a well-used adverb that made this video make sense in my head. I was like, yes, this is a very well-used adverb, and I want to show it. Even though it's from a different book, it doesn't matter. Excerpt number 5. But then I came back to the same thought that always things afresh. He actually left. When addressing adverbs, the question to ask is, does this add valuable information to the verb, therefore to the reader? If the answer is yes, then keep it, use it, it's good. If the answer is maybe or no, if it's no, definitely cut it out. If it's maybe, try and figure out if there is other ways or better adverbs for the situation, and try to understand why you feel the need to use an adverb at that time. In this case, for a little bit of context, the character in question, she's going through a breakup, and by saying he actually left, Taylor Jenkins Reid, he's evoking her disbelief of the whole situation. Just saying he left loses impact. Adding that actually makes the sentence way more stronger. Emotionally speaking, the adverb is what carries the emotion of this sentence. And for me, I think it's the most important thing. If the adverb carries the emotion, if the adverb is the most important piece in that sentence, then it should be kept. Not just because it is an adverb, it should be removed completely. That does not matter. If it's important, if it's valuable, then we keep it. If it's not, then we lose it. But don't take the rule just because people on the internet like me are telling you to just lose all of them. It is a good rule to follow, especially for new writers. Going through your manuscript or your short story or whatever it is that you are writing and making a focus of selecting all the adverbs and then try to remove them all and rephrase and try to figure out if they are well used or not will make you a better writer. That is an exercise that will make you a better writer. But at the same time, you have to be conscious about what you do. Don't just go around and do whatever it is that the internet is telling you to do without actually using your brain to think. Sometimes I feel like we don't actually think, and it is very important, obviously. All that said, let's bring it back to the beginning. Not all adverbs are villains. We are done for today. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope in some way I could provide valuable information that will make you a better writer in the future. I'm very excited to build this community and to have a space where we can learn from each other and learn to be better writers. For now, this is it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye! Bye!